Great. Yeah, I've got time. I'll tell you a quick little story about this so you understand what I'm talking about, and I'll tell you a personal story. It was Sylvia Skadell's birthday party in the 6th grade, Fresno, California. She lived within walking distance of my house. Most of our, it was back in the days of neighborhood schools. We all walked over there. This was the first year we were having boy-girl parties, and prior to this, generally birthday parties, the boys had theirs, the girls had theirs. Well, the boys and girls were starting to get together here. They'd play a few records, do a little dancing. This back in the day, there was nothing else more serious than that. That was it. Well, at the time that I walked into Sylvia Skadell's birthday party, I was on every sports team in school. I was on the student council. I was a straight-A student. The best-looking girl in our elementary school was my girlfriend, Nancy Kelly, and I got to tell you, she was hot. At least for a 6th grader, she was. And so I was kind of on the top of the ladder there in all aspects, and I probably, in retrospect, was a little too big for my britches, if you know what I mean. Well, Nancy and a couple of her girlfriends decided to put old Tim Autrey in his place at this party. And so she and 2 of her friends, they grabbed me and overpowered me. That was the key thing. They just overpowered me and threw me down on the couch. And that was nothing else. I don't want your mind to go anywhere else with that, but that's all it was. Well, girls should never be able to overpower boys, right? And my reaction to that was so poor, I embarrassed myself so much. There was nothing to the act, but my reaction to it, I so embarrassed myself, I left that birthday party. I never went to another one of those birthday parties. I withdrew myself from all social situations. All the way through junior high and high school, I didn't play any more sports. And even today, if I go to a social event, I really don't love mingling with people that I don't know, because of one stupid little 15-second thing that happened to me when I was 12 years old. That's a specific event. Okay? There's no basis for it. It's all internal. In my case, there can be traumatic events and things like that, and we've all had these. All right, so the whole point is, all of this stuff down here combines to make us us. That's where we're coming from, and then our mindset has been formed about all kinds of different things over time, as well our perception, which is much more fickle, and from day to day we might perceive something positive today, negative tomorrow. As influencers, we need to recognize that. We need to work our way through that in order to influence the thoughts and ultimately the feelings of the individual to change their behaviors. Okay? Now, what you have just received here really is about 3 to 4 years, 3 to 3.5 years of college-level psychology in the last 40 minutes. And I hope you paid attention, because if you use this, if you understand this, and we will be talking a little bit more about how this rolls into the organization on Thursday. If you understand this, you can get another human being to do virtually anything you want them to do. Now, normally, if this was a training class, a lot of our training classes are 2 days, and this would get taught on day 1, and I would reveal at some point during the 2-day course that I have been using this particular model on you the entire time we've been together. And in fact, I've been doing that in here. It's not quite as dramatic because this has gone pretty quickly, but let me just ask you a question. How have I responded anytime somebody has had a question or a comment?
Positive manner.
In a positive manner. What did that promote?
Further participation.
Further participation, okay? That's a tiny little glimpse of how you can use this. On purpose. Now, if I got to know you better, I'd get more situational about it, okay? But I did that on purpose to evoke this behavior that I'm looking for, which is more participation. Do you all feel manipulated? You shouldn't, because it's a win-win deal, right? It's all about influence. All right, so that's the individual performance model. Now, this is where we used to leave it. And one of the big questions that comes up is, well, how am I really supposed to know what's going to work with another person? How am I supposed to understand the situational piece? Start paying attention. Wake up. Pay attention if you have people that work around you, people that report to you. What do they like? What do they don't like? Pay attention to what they respond to and what they don't respond to. And chances are really darn good you have no idea of the calculational capability of your unconscious mind. It's constantly processing stuff, and you just use that and you take your best shot. You provide an on-purpose experience. If you don't get exactly the result you want, you step back, you think about it for a while, you modify your approach a little bit, try something a little bit different. Simple? All right, I'm going to make it 10 degrees simpler for you right now. Or a factor of 10 simpler for you, I should say. And that is with this, what we call primary performance needs. Now I need to give credit where credit is due on this. How many of you have ever heard the name of Tony Robbins? Okay, Tony Robbins has probably helped more people on the planet feel better about themselves than any other human being in history. He's worked with, I think the number is 30 million at this point or something like that. It's humongous. Well, as he has matured in his career, of course, he's learned and he's observed, and he put together a course to teach to psychologists that he calls Human Needs Psychology. And that's basically what I'm going to teach you right now. We changed the names because, of course, he's trademarked Human Needs Psychology. So we call it Primary Performance Needs, and what we're really, we're targeting human performance. So it makes sense, right? But here's the idea. All of us have 6 basic needs as human beings to some degree. And notice these are needs, not desires, not, oh, someday maybe I'd like to have that. They're needs. A need must be what? Met. Met or filled, okay? Now, if I have an acute need, what does acute mean? I mean, it's right now, it's big, I'm really focused on it. If I have an acute need, and Darren, you come along and fill that need for me, how am I going to feel about you? I'm going to be pretty open to whatever it is you're suggesting if you're filling my need. Would you agree with that? All right, so here's where this becomes really cool. All right, let's go ahead and fill these in. Do you have the blocks in your handout? Okay, so here's what they are. First one is consistency. We'll just fill them in and then I'll start talking about them. The second one is variety. And you might say, well, now wait a minute, those are just opposites. Yes, they are, but we all have some level of each. Consistency and variety. Number 3, love and connectedness. Number 4, significance. Number 5, growth. And number 6, contribution. Okay, the first 4 needs are referred to as personality needs. The last 2 needs are referred to as spiritual needs. So I'll give you just a moment to finish writing that down. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to dive in this. I know some of you are still writing. Let's talk about each one of these very briefly. First of all, consistency. People that have a... Actually, let me step back for a moment. I failed to mention the most important part about this. Even though all of us have, to some degree, all 6 of these needs, for virtually every one of us, there's 2 that are most predominant. And that's one of the things that makes us us. Out of those 6, there are generally 2 that pop out as the most predominant for each and every one of us. So, the first one is consistency. We all know what consistency means, right? We like things to be the same. We like to be inside of a little box. A stereotype profession that likes consistency is like an accountant. They come in, they sit in their cube, they crunch numbers all day, they eat their bag lunch, they're at their computer, they go home, 30 years, the rocking chair, the whole deal. I'm just being silly. But that's just, generically stereotype accountants like things to kind of be the same inside of a box. You probably all know people like that. Now, there's a tell for someone who has a real high consistency need. Anybody know what a tell is? Anybody in here play poker? What's a tell? Something that gives them away. A habit, something they're not conscious of necessarily. For example, if we're playing poker together, right? And you guys figure out, every time I get a good hand, for some reason my nose itches and I do that. If you happen to know that, and I don't, or I don't know that you're aware of it, that's a pretty darn good piece of information to have right there, isn't it? Because then if I'm you think I might be bluffing, but I did that, I got a good hand. And you're going to play your hands accordingly. That's a tell. So one of the big tells for people that have a high consistency need is an inordinate preoccupation with being on time.